You wake up when your body is ready. No alarm, no schedule, no artificial lights. For 99% of human history, this was not a luxury. This was every single morning for roughly 300,000 years. Today, the average modern worker logs over 40 hours of labor every single week. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. But did your ancient ancestors actually spend every waking second fighting for survival? Or did they have far more free time than you do? We have been taught a very specific story about prehistory. We are told that life before agriculture was nasty, brutish, and short. We imagine our ancestors running from mammoths, shivering in dark caves, and constantly starving. But anthropology tells a completely different story. In 1966, anthropologist Marshall Solins turned this assumption on its head. He introduced a concept called the original Affluent Society. He argued that hunter-gatherers were actually the first truly wealthy people on Earth. But how is that possible when they owned almost nothing? To understand this, we have to look at how they spent their days. In 1963, anthropologist Richard Lee traveled to the Kalahari Desert to study the Juhwanzi people. These were modern hunter-gatherers living much like our prehistoric ancestors did. Lee wanted to measure exactly how much time they spent securing food. He expected to find a grueling, endless struggle. Instead, he discovered something shocking. The average adult spent only about 15 to 20 hours a week hunting and foraging. That is less than 3 hours of work per day. The rest of their time was spent resting, socializing, and creating art. How would you spend your week if you only worked 15 hours? So let us reconstruct a typical day in your ancestral past. You do not wake up to a buzzing phone. You wake up to the sound of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves. There is no rush. No one is monitoring your productivity. If you feel tired, you simply sleep longer. Once the sun warms the camp, a small group decides to gather food. This is not a chore. It is a social walk through the landscape. You chat with your companions. You point out interesting tracks. You collect sweet berries and energy-rich tubers. If you find enough food in 2 hours, you stop. There is no incentive to gather more than you can eat today because you cannot store it. You head back to camp. Back at home, the afternoon is entirely yours. You might spend it napping in the shade. You might groom your family members or play with the children. There is no boundary between life and work because work as a concept does not exist. You only do what is necessary to live, and then you stop. This balance completely shifted how early humans interacted. In a famous study, anthropologist Polly Weissner analyzed the conversations of hunter-gatherers during the day versus the night. She found that daytime talk was highly practical. People discussed hunting strategies, plant locations, and daily logistics. But once the sun set and the campfire was lit, everything changed. Around the fire, 81% of conversations turned to storytelling, myth, and singing. The firelight created a safe, magical space where human culture was born. It allowed your ancestors to dream, to laugh, and to build deep emotional connections. When was the last time you sat around a fire with your community, doing absolutely nothing but sharing stories? Then, about 10,000 years ago, everything broke. Humans invented agriculture. We stopped wandering and started farming. We thought we were mastering nature, but instead, nature mastered us. Historians often call this the agricultural trap. Suddenly, humans had to work from dawn until dusk. We had to weed fields, herd animals, build fences, and guard food supplies. Skeletal remains from early farming sites like Çatalhöyük in modern-day Turkey show a tragic decline in human health. These early farmers had worn joints, rotted teeth, and stunted growth compared to their hunter-gatherer ancestors. We traded a life of leisure and diverse nutrition for a life of grueling toil and repetitive stress. This trap never really ended. It just evolved. Today we live in high-tech cities with instant communication and unlimited food. Yet we feel more rushed and anxious than ever before. We have built a world where we must constantly produce to justify our existence. We have forgotten that our bodies and brains were shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of slow, rhythmic living. Your DNA still expects you to live in a world where time is abundant and social connection is your primary survival tool. So, as you go about your busy day, take a breath. Your ancestors were not desperate survival machines. They were masters of leisure who understood that life is meant to be lived, not just managed. You wake up when your body is ready.